If you're dealing with an avoidant, you might be wondering how to make them fall in love. The problem is that an avoidant can love you deeply and still walk away from the relationship. There's three things an avoidant needs to hear from you more than "I love you." And as a dismissive avoidant who's learned to lean much more secure, I understand why these three things can make such a big difference. I know what makes an avoidant feel pressured and want to pull away, and I also understand what makes an avoidant come back and feel comfortable enough to stay, connect, and move the relationship forward. For an avoidant, love has to feel safe. And emotional safety for an avoidant looks very different from what it looks like for someone who's anxiously attached, which, if you're watching this, you probably are. To an avoidant, emotional safety means they can get close to you without feeling controlled. They can need space without being chased. They can have feelings without immediately being expected to talk about them. And most importantly, they don't feel responsible for constantly reassuring you or managing your emotional state. But creating emotional safety for an avoidant doesn't mean that you abandon your own needs to accommodate theirs. That's not secure attachment. That's self-abandonment. So the goal is for both people to feel safe. And when you come from a secure place, the three phrases communicate something an avoidant desperately needs in order to stay connected. It's safe for me to love you without losing myself. If you're new here, hi, my name is Lucia. I'm a dating and relationship expert specializing in helping you get your ex back or to get over your ex. And if you're not new, you're part of my no contact army. Welcome back. Okay, so let's get into the three things. Number one is I understand why you needed space. Now, notice what I'm not saying. I'm not saying, oh, you were right to disappear for 3 weeks. You can treat me however you want because you're avoidant. And I'm certainly not saying you should suppress your own feelings so that your avoidant doesn't become uncomfortable. What you're communicating is simply, I understand that when you get overwhelmed, your instinct is to create distance. When an avoidant pulls away, the anxious response is to immediately try to close that distance. What happened? Are you mad at me? Why aren't you answering? Can we please talk about this? Do you still love me? And from the anxious person's perspective, that makes perfect sense, right? They're trying to restore the connection so they can feel safe again. But the avoidant is trying to do the exact opposite. They are creating distance so they can feel safe again. So now we have two people trying to regulate themselves in completely opposite ways. One moves closer, the other moves further away. And the more one chases, the more one runs away. So you can see how this leads to misunderstandings and breakups. So when you can communicate, I understand why you needed space, you interrupt that cycle. You're saying, I don't have to like the space to understand it. I don't have to panic because you need some time, and I don't have to chase you in order to feel okay myself. That's secure behavior. And there's also another reason that this is powerful for an avoidant, because avoidants expect their need for space to become a source of conflict eventually. They've seen it with other relationships. They expect to be told that they're cold and selfish and emotionally unavailable, or that there's something wrong with them. So when somebody actually understands their need for space without attacking them for it, that creates emotional safety. Now, understanding someone's need for space doesn't mean that you accept it indefinitely. You can understand that they need space and still say, well, I need communication and consistency. So both things can be true. Secure attachment isn't about choosing their needs over yours. It's being able to recognize both. And if you need help to get your ex back, I do offer private coaching. You can contact me at theartoflove.net/coaching. And we will send you the rates. They're not on the website, and the direct link is underneath every single video and podcast. Okay, phrase number 2. You don't have to be anything different for me. Now, this one goes much deeper than it sounds, because a lot of avoidants experience closeness as eventually coming with expectations. At the beginning of a relationship, everything feels wonderful because there isn't any pressure yet. But as the relationship progresses and becomes more serious, then expectations naturally increase. more communication, more vulnerability, more time together, more conversations about the future. And eventually, the avoidant may begin hearing something underneath all of those requests. Who you are right now isn't enough. And once somebody starts feeling like love is conditional upon being different, then intimacy starts to feel dangerous. So you don't have to be anything different from me shows that you accept them. It says, I see who you are. I'm not making it my project to fix you. I'm not trying to turn you into somebody else so I can feel more secure. And people are much more willing to grow when they don't feel as though somebody's trying to force them to grow. But again, there's an important distinction. Accepting somebody for who they are doesn't mean accepting a relationship that doesn't meet your needs. So if somebody tells you, I don't want commitment, I don't want much communication, I don't want emotional intimacy, and I may disappear whenever things become uncomfortable, you're allowed to say, well, I accept that this is where you are right now, but that relationship doesn't work for me. You don't have to change them. And you also don't have to stay. That's security. There's a huge difference between you need to change so I can be happy, and you're allowed to be who you are, and I'm allowed to decide whether that works for me. And the second one will take you out of that power struggle. And if you're in no contact right now to get your ex back, be sure to download my app Silencio. It's available on the App Store and on Google Play, and the link is underneath every single video and podcast. And also, if you still read, you can download my book, No Contact Secrets, at nocontactsecrets.com, where you can read 2 free chapters before you purchase the book. All right, so now we have number 3. I care about you, but I don't need anything from you right now. And I think this might be the most important one, because sometimes I love you doesn't land on an avoidant as simply as I love you. It can land as I love you. Do you love me too? I love you. Where's this relationship going? I love you. Prove to me that you feel the same way. So, in other words, the words themselves might be loving, but there's this invisible demand attached to them. And avoidants are very sensitive to demands. So when you say, I care about you, but I don't need anything from you right now, you're separating affection from obligation. You're saying, my feelings are mine. You don't have to immediately do something with them. You don't have to reassure me. You don't have to give me an answer right now. And probably most importantly, you're not responsible for regulating my emotions. And that gives avoidance breathing room. But I do want to emphasize the words right now, because I'm not saying that you should have a relationship where you never need anything from the other person. Of course you have needs. You need consistency, communication, affection, commitment, honesty, reliability. So the secure position isn't, I don't need anything from you ever. It's, I don't need you to give me something this second in order for me to be okay. Okay, so that's the difference. And that brings me to what may be the most important part of this entire video. You don't actually have to say any of these 3 things word for word. Your behavior can communicate them. Can you give somebody space without punishing them for needing it? Can you accept somebody for who they are without making it your mission to change them? Can you care about somebody without requiring an immediate response to soothe your anxiety? Those are secure behaviors, and that is what's going to create emotional safety for an avoidant, because avoidants don't necessarily need less love. They need love that doesn't feel like a demand. Love or closeness doesn't mean that they're going to lose their independence, where conflict doesn't automatically mean criticism, and where somebody else's emotions don't suddenly become their responsibility. So if you're dealing with an avoidant, don't obsess over finding the perfect words. Work on getting yourself to the place where you can genuinely communicate, I understand why you need space. You don't have to be anything different from me. I care about you, but I don't need anything from you right now. And when those phrases are said from a place of security, then you're offering something much more powerful than reassurance. You're showing an avoidant that closeness with you doesn't have to cost them their freedom, which is one of an avoidant's top fears. And at the same time, you're showing yourself that loving somebody doesn't have to cost you your self-respect. That's the emotional safety that's going to give an avoidant the opportunity to stay connected, become more comfortable with intimacy, and move the relationship forward. Because again, an avoidant doesn't necessarily need you to love them less. They need your love to feel safe. Okay? So let me know if you have any questions or comments about anything I've said. And if you want help understanding what your avoidant ex is really doing, make sure to subscribe because I discuss no contact, avoidance, and what actually brings an ex back on this channel. And finally, remember, love inspires, empowers, uplifts, and enlightens.